Hello everyone, this is Marc Sabatella from Mastering MuseScore, and welcome to the Music Masterclass. And sorry for a little bit of a late start, just a little glitch, but I'm cool. And good to see everyone checking in here. And I'm looking forward to looking at some of the music that people have been submitted and talking a little bit more about these holiday songs and how we're going about choosing and playing chords for them. So, I want to start. I actually want to start with going through going through a better version of an example that I posted earlier for the holiday fake book project. So in the video that I posted on Monday in Musicianship Skills Workshop, I went through. Well, first of all, I did a version where I had the screen share all wrong, and I redid it. But during the video, though, even the redone one, I went and talked about the song Winter Wonderland briefly at the end. And I butchered it. I just messed it up. I just tried to quickly go through something to tell something about the key change that happens in it. And I just went through it without really thinking, without working it through, and I just got it wrong. So I'm going to fix that now. I'm going to show you how it should have gone. So my goal was to show what the modulation is in the bridge of Winter Wonderland. So Winter Wonderland is an AABA form. And so it means there's an 8-bar melody that then basically repeats, and then there's a bridge in a contrasting key. And I was trying to ascertain what that key was, and I just got it wrong because I rushed. So I'm going to get this right now. So I was in the key of G. So I'm going to play me a G scale. One of the reasons I play the scale and then play the chord, and then maybe play a 1 chord, a 4 chord, a 5 chord, and back to 1. So 1, 4, 5, 1. By playing those chords, I give myself a set on. I don't know how to put it. I'm setting my ears to that key. So. And then if you think about the way, so if you watch the video that I did on playing chords, you saw that I'm talking about playing in the right hand with middle C somewhere near or above the thumb. So I was talking about playing these chords here, so that I'm mostly above middle C, a little bit below. So 1, 4, 5, 1. And that's giving me the idea of where this is. And now I want to think about where the melody is for Winter Wonderland, because I know it doesn't start on scale degree 1. How do I know that? Well, because I've thought through it at least that much. And it starts da 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 dum, right? So let's all go through that. Why don't we all go through it with me, and we'll think about that melody. So we're starting on a 1 chord, and I'm pretty sure it starts on a 1 chord. In fact, I'm quite sure. I'm positive it starts on a 1 chord. First of all, do I have the right song? Yes, I do. I get that one mixed up with Let It Snow all the time. Don't know why. So da 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 dum. Now, when I first sang da da dum, I wasn't sure what note that was, to be honest. It's either 1, 3, or 5 in the key. I'm in the key of G, so it's either G, B, or D. So Dean is absolutely right. It does start on D. If I had any doubt about what that start note was going to be, I'm going to ask myself, well, does it feel like the tonic? No. So it's either 3 or 5. And I still might not know. I mean, yes, when I play it, I know. But here is what is actually going on in my head. Da da dum, it's not 1. Da da dum, is that 1? No, because bum is 1. So now I kind of have a pretty good idea that it's 5, because it wasn't 1, and it wasn't the note right above 1, the next chord tone above 1. It wasn't 3, because if it was 3, it would have been da 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 dum. That note would have been 1. I want to know what 1 sounds like. So yes, absolutely starts on 5. So da 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 dum, da da. And if all I got is 1, 4, and 5, which is what I'm having us start with, ba da dum, 5 chord. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. That's basically it. Yeah, there's more chords that we can put in there. There's all sorts of cool chords we can put in there. But my starting point, da 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 ba da 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 ba ba da da da, and it's still kind of this chord, ba da da da. Da 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 da. Yeah, I'm going to put more chords in later. But now I need to get to the bridge. And that's the part that I was trying to talk about before, and I just got it wrong. So I got to slow down and think about this. Da 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 dum, da 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 dum, ba da 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 da. Walking in a winter wonderland. Ba da 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 dum. That's how it goes. I rushed my interpretation of where the bridge melody note started, but I need to think about what is that first note of the melody. Ba da 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 dum bum. So I still, if I don't know what key it goes to, and I do know what key it goes to at this point, but I had to hear the first note of the melody to orient myself around that. In the meadow. And now, in the meadow, how big is that leap? So here's the thing. I could try to sing all the Twinkle Twinkle Little Stars and My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean and love story theme songs and all the little interval songs that you learn. The problem is it's going to be difficult to relate this because we are not in the key we started in. Our ear isn't even oriented in the new key yet, right? So it's tricky to figure out what these intervals are when we haven't even ascertained the key. And so if I try to jump to a note in the key, it's none of those, right? It's in the meadow, right? It's that note. How did I know that? Well, in this case, it was trial and error, right? I tried all the notes in the key of G that were somewhere around there. I knew it was going to have to be a leap up. And it could have been there, could have been there, could have been there, could have been there, could have been any of these notes, but none of them were right. And so I just kept plunking until I found it. That's the brute force method, but I want to be cleverer than that. You can get the right answer that way, but, and here's the point that I make often, if we're trying to learn a song that we've actually physically heard with our actual eardrums vibrating, we've heard the song before, then you can use that trial and error approach because your ears will tell you when you get the right answer. But if you are either improvising or composing, and you're trying to represent a sound that you're only hearing in your mind's eye or mind's ear, you're hearing it in your mind, but you've never actually heard it before. You're just imagining this sound. Well, the moment you play a wrong note on the piano, your original vision of what that note was supposed to be is now sullied. And there's a good chance that you won't recognize it even if you play it correctly, because now you've heard incorrect notes, and that is going to interfere with your mental notion of what the correct note was. So let me talk about what I really would do if I'm going to slow down and get this. So, walking in a winter wonderland. What I want to do, I'm going to sing it an octave higher. Walking in a winter wonderland in the meadow. I don't know where I am in the key. In the meadow. I got to sing it in the lower octave because it's too high for me now. In the meadow. Do I feel like I've arrived on the tonic of the new key? This is the question I'm asking myself. And I don't think I have. In the meadow we could build a snowman. Oh, there's my tonic. In the meadow we could build a snowman. In man. dum bum. Now I can ask myself what's going on. And that to me sounds like 5 to 1 in the new key. So there's my 5, there's my 1. Now I know what key I'm in. I'm in B. And now that I know I'm in B, it's really easy to get that melody in the meadow because I know my B scale. In the meadow. I've been singing We Could Build, but I don't think that's the melody. I think it's in the meadow we can build, maybe, a snowman. I'd have to look that up either in the sheet music or listen to some recordings. It's not uncommon that there might be disagreement about notes like that. You might listen to 3 different recordings and hear some people keep going back down to the F sharp, some people singing the G sharp. I don't know, I think it's probably always the G sharp, but it's not uncommon to see discrepancies like that, where some people sing this melody note one way, some people sing it another way, and at some point it doesn't even matter how it was originally written, it matters how people actually do it. That ends up being more important for this purpose of putting these songbooks together. So, I know, we can build a snowman and pretend that he is Parson Brown. So, now that I know it's in B, now I can think about what my chords are in the B, in the key of B. And now it's either a 4 or a 5. If it's a 4 chord, or maybe if it's a 5 chord, or either way, I like the 5 chord there. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's a 4 and a 5, right? 4, 5, 1. I know I'm singing the numbers that indicate the chord while singing the melody. I'm not singing the roots. That's just what I'm doing. Because I'm playing the root. You don't need me hear me sing it. There's a 4, 5. Nope, I'm still not singing. I'm singing the melody here. 4, 5, 1. So it could just be a 4 chord. Bum 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 bum, or it could be bum 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 bum. I kind of feel like that 5 chord by the end of the phrase is good. Now, yes, 4 works. I'm going to tell you what I probably would normally do, though. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. Yes, I'm trying to start with 1, 4, and 5, but I'm going to tell you, as I've always talked about before, anytime there's a 4 chord, I might do a 2 instead, because 2 and 4 both are good preparations for the 5 chord. So, dum bum 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 ba da dum, and maybe as a 7th chord even better. Bum 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 bum. So notice that I am playing the chords simply while singing the melody. This is the thing that I've been trying to get people to do, and what the lesson on playing chords was about just playing the chords simply and using your voice to do the melody. It's like cross-training. It's like we're training our ear, training our fingers at the keyboard, and training our theory knowledge all wrapped up in one. So there's methods to, there's reasons why I recommend things the way I do. So dum ba dum bum bum ba da 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 dum dum ba dum dum bum ba da da dum. Now it's gonna change key again. Da 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 dum. So here again, man, I gotta think about what that relationship is gonna be. And that he is Parson Brown. He'll say, Brown, oh, now what's going on, Brown? Parson Brown. He'll, I don't know what that note is yet. Brown. He'll, I think, is that right? I gotta think about this. See, this is so easy to get wrong. And I really gotta stop to think about this. So it could be E flat, but I don't. So here's the thing that I'm struggling with in my head. Here's what I'm struggling with in my head. I know that it's very common for songs in their bridge to go through two different keys. And I think Dean is right here. And I'll tell you why. It's my brain telling me that more than my ear. My brain is telling me the A. And I'll tell you why. It's very common that in the bridge of a song, that it goes to another key. So this song started in G. For the bridge here, we went to B. It's very common also that in the middle of the bridge, it's going to change key again. That first key change can be anything. Anything. I mean, this songs of this genre change keys everywhere. They go. This one happens to go from G to B, so it goes to the key of major 3. Going to minor 3 is common. Going to flat 3 is common. Going to 6 is common. Major and minor 6. Going to major flat 6. Going to 4. All these keys are common. So, the first key change going into the bridge could go anywhere, but the second key change, you can kind of bet money on this. The second key change is going to be the original 5. In other words, I am pretty darn sure, intellectually speaking, that that second key change in the middle of Winter Wonderland is going to be to the key of D. I don't know this for a fact, but this is what my brain is telling me to expect. And since In the Meadow started on scale degree 5, if it is in fact going to go to the key of the 5, the first melody note is going to be A. It is going to be A, scale degree 5. He'll say, are you married? Well, I will say no, man. I have to think about what the words are. So I think that is right, even without working it out. So both Dean and Michael are sort of confirming that my initial guess was wrong, and Dean has proposed the A, and I think it's right. But now I want to hear it in context. Meadow, we can build a snowman. Now I'm just playing the melody and playing roots here, because that's comfortable for me also. And pretend that he is Parson Brown. That's so weird. He'll say, are you married? We'll say no, man. So, my brain told me that was the right thing, but when I went to actually play it, it sounded so weird to me. Because it really is a leap. It's a tritone leap. Right? From and pretend that he is Parson Brown. It's a tritone leap. Man, that's weird. So, even though my brain is telling me that's right, and both Dean is telling me that's right, and Michael is telling me that at least my initial guess was wrong, I still have just enough doubt. I'm pretty sure that we're right, and it really is a weird tritone leap. But I got to play this thing out and see if I end up back in the key I started in. If I don't end up back in the key I started in, I know I messed up somewhere. He'll say, are you married? We'll say, no, man. But you can do the job when you're in town. Back to the D later on. We'll conspire. Yeah, so that's the right answer. It is going to be D, and so that's the thing. And it just has that weird tritone leap in it. I don't hear the tritone as the significant thing that is my clue to figuring that out. I'm not saying it's not possible to figure it out by recognizing there's a tritone leap. But if we think about tritone leaps, so like last week we looked at a tritone leap. What song was it? I've already forgotten which song it was, but there was definitely a song that had a tritone leap. It was Christmas Tree? Yeah, it was Oh Christmas Tree that had it was in the key of B flat. It was leaping from 4 to 7 and then going to 1. That tritone leap I recognize as a tritone leap, and I know where it is in the scale. I know all that stuff. This tritone leap is like no other tritone leap in the world. It's a tritone leap from scale degree 3 of one key to scale degree 5 of a totally different key. There is not like a way to compartmentalize that in my brain. There's not any other songs I know of that do that particular thing, that end up in one key in B and then go up a minor third, and we're going from scale degree 3 in one key to scale degree 5 in the key a minor third higher. That combination, I'm not saying it doesn't exist anywhere, but that combination of that modulation up a third combined with the melody going from scale degree 3 of one key to scale degree 5 of the next, I mean, that combination probably does not exist. Or if it does, it's so rare as to not be like a thing that I could ever expect to just recognize. So as far as recognizing that that's a tritone, yeah, if I work hard at singing just the melody and nailing that, maybe I could learn to hear that. But I don't know. For me personally, that's not going to work. That's all I can say. Not going to work. And my window here is, for some reason, let me close this window and reopen another one, because I want to make sure I get all of the chat. Okay. So anyhow, that's and he'll say, "Are you married?" We'll say, "No, man, but you can do the job when you're in town." And I end up back on that D, and then later on, and then we're back where we started for the key of G. So in my video that I posted on Monday, I didn't slow down and go through that, because I wasn't really talking about Winter Wonderland, right? I was talking about "O Come All Ye Faithful," and I just tried to dash off a real quick, what about Winter Wonderland, and tried to just jump really through and see where it modulated to. And I just got it wrong. It's just the way it is. So getting it right requires thinking. That's actually an unusually difficult example, I would say. There's a lot of songs that modulate going into their bridges, but not a whole lot that are as tricky as that one was. That one taxed my brain and ears to be working this out. I mean, yes, I would have gotten the answer faster than the 25 minutes I've been spending on this, but I clearly didn't get the answer right in 10 seconds. You know, realistically, if I had spent just a minute just focused on myself, I would have had it. Well, whatever time it takes you is worth it. That identifying these temporary key changes is tricky, and so that's why I'm going through this process. So anyhow, I'm hoping that someone got some use out of that, but in any case, I feel better that I got it right. And I'll tell you why this got on my radar. I'll tell you how it got on my radar. The way it got on my radar is this. I went through that demonstration, and I started off in the demonstration saying, I think Winterland goes to the 3. And I didn't say that based on having worked it out recently. I said it based on memories of having played that song years ago, and that little piece of knowledge stuck. Sometimes you just remember things like that, which key which songs go to for the bridge. So and it had just stuck that Winter Wonderland went to the 3. But I doubted myself because I get it confused with Let It Snow, and I want to say Let It Snow goes to the key of the 5, but I don't remember that for sure either. And so I kind of doubted it, and then I started playing through it, and I got it wrong, and I had it going to the key of 6, and said that, and then just moved on. And so I recorded that video whenever it was, yesterday afternoon, and then lying in bed last night, not sleeping at some point, it just bothered me. Lying in bed last night, I just was thinking, I know it's the 3. I know it's the 3. I remember it's supposed to be the 3. How did I get this wrong? And I started singing through that thing in my head. I didn't even sing it out loud because it's the middle of the night. I just sang it through in my head. And and that's when I realized it goes down a half step. So I sang "Walking in a winter wonderland in the meadow," and I'm thinking down a half step is where it starts. And then I was thinking, well, gee, when I played it in that demonstration, I tried starting it on B, and I went like that. And I was like, that's not the right interval. Melodically speaking, I got the first note wrong. I didn't get the transition from the last note of the A section to the first note of the bridge. I didn't get that right because I didn't slow down. So I picked a key and just went with it, and it was just not the right key. And so what got me was remembering. Some part of my memory knew it should have been the 3 and not the 6. And if it was either going to be 3 or 5, I just was pretty sure I remembered it not being 6 from previous times working through that song. And then, and so then it was a matter of singing it to myself. And I'm just imagining, and I literally, without singing it out loud, just hearing the pitches in my head, I worked out that the first note of the melody had to be a half step below the last note. You know, the first note of the bridge had to be a half step below the last note of the A section. So that all happened in my head. No instrument, not even any singing, but just imagining the pitches. I'm not saying that the skill of being able to solve your own problems lying in bed awake in the middle of the night without waking up your spouse or something, I'm not saying that that in itself is a reason to work on these skills. But I am saying, again, when I talk about cross-training and how everything feeds into each other, that's good that I was able to do that. It shows that these parts of my brain are working together, and that was one of the many, many, many benefits that one might gain from that. So that was something that, I didn't come in this morning. I mean, I didn't plan that this is what I was going to be talking about so much today until I had that epiphany at 5 a.m. this morning, and just knew that I needed to work it out. So I knew I didn't even play it on the piano until I came here. I wanted to have you guys watch the process. I wanted to not work it out and then show you the answer. I wanted to tell you that in my head I was pretty sure of that I'd gotten something wrong, and then I wanted to go through the process so you could see me get it right. So that's that story. All right. So what I want to do next is we're going to just do some. So those of you who are anywhere near a piano. If you're near a piano, oh wow, if you're hearing Wagner in the middle of the night, that's not conducive to sleeping for most people. I had some other weird dream last night, but yeah, I can't remember what it was. But I want to continue also on this thread of playing chords. Okay, so those of you who happen to be near a keyboard, I'm going to recommend that you do so, and that you get yourself near a keyboard. And I'm going to go ahead and flip over to the Publish tab here. So MuseScore 4 has this Publish tab, which quickly clears away your sidebars and some of the toolbars at least. So it's kind of a cool thing in MuseScore 4. You don't have to create a workspace for it. So now the question is, yeah, you can try to use this, but so here's 1 second. This guy that I've posted links to and suggested it useful. My claim is when I talk about all this cross-training stuff and that working in one area can help with another area and working those two areas can show connections between them, physically playing things on the piano or on some form of keyboard is incredibly valuable. It's just hard to overstate how valuable it is, even if you're not a pianist. But if it's not convenient right now, that's fine. Whatever. So all I'm wanting is we're going to go through these first few measures here, and I want you to all play along with me using. If you've watched the video, great on how we're going to play chords. If not, my summary is you're going to put your thumb on or below middle C, and then the rest of the chord above it. So that G chord is going to have my thumb on the B, and the rest of the chord above middle C. Middle C is going to be right here in the crook between my thumb and forefinger. And if you want to write them out this way, you can do that as well. But the whole purpose here is to get to the point where we can see a lead sheet like this and play it on the piano, play the chords, so that we can accompany ourselves on these songs, accompany ourselves singing, accompany our friends and family singing, etc. And we don't need complicated piano skills. All we need to do is know how to play these chords in the right hand and play the root in the left hand. And that's one reason I'm going for relatively simple chords. So I just want everyone to try these chords one at a time. So there's the G chord. Now I want you to think about the D7 chord, what notes are in it, and get ready to play it, and go ahead and find it. And that's how I'm doing it. My thumb is on or below middle C. As I mentioned in the lesson, you could possibly put on middle C, you can put it here, but I prefer not to have these two notes next to each other in my thumb and forefinger because it's not the most comfortable position on my for my hand. And then we're just going to play these chords one at a time, and then I'm going to transpose it, and we're going to try it again. And so get ready for the G chord. Here comes the G chord. All right, let's go back to the D7 chord. This all presupposes you know how to read these chord symbols, and that's why I've got things like my basic music theory course or the whole session that I did in the MuseScore Cafe last week on interpreting these chord symbols. E minor, same story. We want our thumb on or below middle C, the rest of the note above. You got it? There it is. B, E, and G. Now let's do the same for the A7 chord. Thumb on or below middle C, the rest of the chord above. Think about it. There we go. So, and as far as actually using the piano keyboard on MuseScore, well, what you'll discover is, well, if you got a touchscreen, it might work to actually play on your touchscreen, but that'll be tougher. You know, you could play the notes one at a time by clicking them, but it doesn't give you the same sensation of exactly, you won't hear them all together in the same way. And now to the D triad. Same story. We want our thumb on or below middle C, the other fingers above. Think it through. And now we got the same two chords again. The A7 and D. All right, so for those of you who are able to be playing along on the piano, I want to know. I want some honest assessment, self-assessment here. Some of you are accomplished pianists and like, oh yeah, no problem. I can do that. I know the chords. I can do this real quick. For some people, it's a lot of work just to think through what notes are in the chord. For some people, it's like, well, I know what notes are in the chord, but figuring out how to rearrange them on the piano, that's tricky. So I'd love to hear, you know, anyone who was able to try that now, let me know what was easy, what wasn't easy. If it was all easy for everyone, we make it harder. But I'm curious about that. Meanwhile, let's do it in time, slowly now. There's going to be my tempo. And your task is now going to be to play those chords as they go by. I'm singing in the wrong key. 1, 2, 3. Oh, come, all ye faithful, be looking ahead, joyful and triumphant. Oh, come ye to Bethlehem. So, Larry, thanks for checking in, and I know that you are, at least I assume you are a fairly accomplished pianist based on the music that you've been sharing. So I expect it to be easier for you. I'm wondering where other people are in that whole thing. But let's move on to the second portion. Come and behold him, born the King of Angels. The chords go by a little faster here. And let's try to do the same thing. One chord at a time. but I'm gonna, yeah, one chord at a time. So G with a B in the bass. Remember, this isn't telling me what to do with my right hand. That B in the bass, it just happens that my thumb is going to be on B. But that's not what G over B means. It means the bass note, my left hand note, is going to be a B. I can play it down here. So it's going to be here or here. For the C chord, I want my thumb on or below the C. So, yeah, so good. I'm glad to see you stretching yourself, Michael, and that's great because it really is, it's good practice. I mean, a lot of jazz musicians who are not pianists learn to play just enough piano to be useful, and some of them become quite like adept at it so that they Dizzy Gillespie pretty famously was the pianist on one of Charlie Parker's sessions with Miles Davis on trumpet because the pianist I think didn't show up. At least that's the story as I hear it. And Charles Mingus did a whole album of piano music that's pretty good. Neither of them are like super technically adept, but they know their way around. There's a thing that's called arranger's piano, knowing how to play the piano just well enough to be a decent arranger so that you can figure things out at the keyboard. Now with notation software, maybe people figure stuff out in software rather than at the keyboard, but it's the same basic idea. So, all right. So Dean has a great question here. Is doubling the third in the G chord okay? This is a great question. This is the answer is, well, it's okay. It's okay. It's not great. So the usual rules for doubling things do apply, but we sometimes just don't worry about it that much. When you're playing chords from a lead sheet, it's to be expected that certain things are going to go out the window. So what Dean is talking about here is this B being doubled. That's like one of the things they tell you is maybe not the best doubling in the world. It's not terrible. It's not terrible at all, in fact. It's not bad at all. But realistically, if I were really thinking ahead, I might do this. I might double the root in my right hand and let the third only be in the bass. That is arguably a better doubling. Now, when I go to play the C chord next, is that good voice leading from G, C, or would it have been better to go B, C? I don't know. Maybe voice leading wise, the B is better. But then we get to answer to the judge of parallel octaves and parallel fifths and wonder, is that okay that we're moving this bottom note of my voicing the same way we are moving the bass note? Well, in point of fact, that's going to happen all over the place. If I play, say, a G chord here, and then the next chord is A minor, I'm going to have bottom in two voices, and I'm going to have so I'm going to have that in two voices as well, parallel octaves and parallel fifths. The reality is you just can't get too hung up on that when you're reading from a lead sheet because you got enough processing to go on in the brain. So the tricks that I talk about are tricks that produce generally good results. And if it takes all of your brain power to be able to execute that at tempo, it's good enough. When you reach the next level where you can do what we just did with barely a thought, then you can expend some extra thought on questions like, can I improve the doubling here? Or can I improve the voice leading by, instead of going from G to A like this, maybe use contrary motion? And use contrary motion. When you see a root moving by step, you sort of develop this instinct of, oh, maybe my top part should move in contrary motion. It's not necessary, but it's something that you might think about. So those are just the way it is. And yes, parallels like that happen all over the place in piano music too. It's like, there's all sorts of places where you'll see accompaniment like this, where it's really this, boom, and it's just chords moving, or and it's really just moving the triad in root position. It's especially common, when using a rhythmic accompaniment pattern that there will be embedded parallels within it, and we're just okay with it. So we're not talking the things about parallel fifths and parallel octaves have to do with this contrapuntal textures and things like that, and maybe it just doesn't apply so much to piano accompaniment. Now, I do want to address what Dave is asking about here because it's a good question. And so, Dave, I'm not sure when you said I'd be interested to know if guitarists or other string players see these differently. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by these here. But what I will say is, if you are a guitar player who knows how to read these chord symbols, you're not thinking about every single note, right? You just know, like I think I know how to play an A. I certainly know how to play a D and a D7, right? This is D, that's D7. This is G, right? I learned a few chord shapes for guitar at one point in my life, and those ones I remember. I kind of remembered a C at one point, but I've already forgotten it. And same with A and A7. Those are really the only chords I remember from when I was 10. But if you're playing from those shapes, you're not having to think about the voice leading that's going on. You're just playing from the shape. And that works fine. The design of the instrument and the design of those shapes is designed to give you sort of okay voice leading in the same way that what I'm talking about here gives you sort of okay voice leading. If you're a jazz guitar players almost never use those typical predefined shapes. They will be thinking about the voice leading of that A7, exactly what notes they're putting in and how to voice it. They think much more like jazz pianists do, but it's much harder because you don't have the whole visual thing to key off of. So jazz guitarists, frankly, blow my mind that they can do what they do. The good jazz guitar players are able to do they're able to do things that it is beyond my comprehension that it's possible to do. So so anyhow, that's I guess what I would say. And if you want to try to avoid doubling notes, then even knowing, like if I know this is a G chord, but I have no idea which of those those 6 strings is which note. I mean, I can work it out. The E string on the 3rd fret, oh, that one's a G, and I can work that stuff out, but I don't instinctively know which string is which note in the chord. So the question is that doubling okay? And Graham's saying that the 3rd is okay to double. It is okay to double, but if you look at different people's discussion of voice leading, you'll see different thoughts about the best way to treat first inversion chords. Some people say, oh yeah, double the 3rd, double the bass notes, great. Other people say, no, double the root of the 5th because of this or that. And a lot of it has to do with these other matters. But in this case, because the next chord is that chord a step above, it is inviting parallel fifths. If we double that B, you'd have to go out of your way to not move both of those B's to C. The first B is definitely moving to C. The bass note is moving there. So you'd have to make sure, if you do double that B, that the double note doesn't also move to C in traditional voice leading types of rule situations. So, so Larry, you're saying that you've played this song that so much that you've memorized it, but I don't know if you're using these exact chords because these are my kind of simplified chords. That'd be interesting to know. But I was more or less finished with that other thought about just the situation in which it's okay to double the 3rd of a chord. If it's the 1 chord, doubling the 3rd is better than if it's the 5 chord. Because if it's the 5 chord, if it's a D chord, the 3rd is the leading tone. And then you got another reason not to double it, because it's the leading tone. It's moving up a step. So and I think, Dave, that what you're saying here about in practically you need to get something out, and that's why we have these techniques that are designed to give us reasonable results quickly. So getting reasonable results quickly. So I will say that, Dean, so it's been an interesting digression about that 3rd, but I will say that I do have some little part of me that remembers that. So if I'm playing this song, I'm going to guess. Here's what's going to happen to me. If I'm playing the song, when I get to that part, I'll go, and I'll be aware as I'm doing this. Maybe not if I'm trying to sing also, but if I'm just accompanying, I'll hear that doubled B and the parallel octave there. I will hear that, and something will register as, I'm not so sure about that. On the second verse, I'll hear it again and go, oh, now I see what's happening. And then if there's a third verse, I'm going to remember and do this. So that is going to happen. And it happens all the time in a jazz context also, because we're going to take that form and play it many times while we improvise over it. A lot of songs, like if it's an A form, like Winter Wonderland, I might get it right by that final A section, right? Because I'll have played that same chord 3 times in the first A and the second A and then the final A. So I might improve my voicing just within a single pass through the piece. But yeah, that is the kind of thing I'll pay attention to. So, anyhow, yeah, great discussion. Love these questions. So, let's make another pass now at this section of the piece now that we've talked about that. So I'm going to go ahead and do this thing because I can. But then we're just going to play the rest of the chords straight on out. So here's my G over B. Let's get ready to play the C chord now. Thumb on or below C. All right. Now let's get ready to play the D7. And we've already played the D7, right? That's a nice thing. Once you're halfway through the song, you've probably played all the chords that are going to be in it. It's going to be more of the same. There's my D7, right? You don't have to think that hard about it because we've played that song, that chord several times. We've played the G chord a whole lot of times. Now we haven't played A7 yet. Or have we? Yeah, we have. We've played A7. Right there. And then D7. We've played that one. Yeah. Play along with me. And now we got a whole lot of G. We get to play that G a long time. Come let us adore him. Oh, come let us adore him. And we can add more chords to this later. But come let us adore. And then come let us adore. And here comes him with the D7. Him. All right. Last line. Chords are going to go by more quickly. This is as fast as many chords as I would want to play in this type of setting. Oh, get ready for come, C chord, get that thumb on or below middle C. Come. Now let's get ready for that A7. We've played it before. Let us. Get ready for that D7. Adore. The G chord with the B in the bass. Can I use the same trick I used a minute ago? Yeah, I can. Him. And then the C. Him. And now a G chord with a D in the bass. Same G chord in the right hand. It doesn't mean put a D on the bottom of the right hand. I'm still going to play that G exactly where I did before. But Christ with the D in the bass. And then Christ the Lord. All right. Let's try it. Let's try it together. And, if you're not at a piano, well then practice whatever you want. Practice singing the roots. If you're not at a piano, practice singing the roots. That'll be useful. Or at least the bass line. Da-da-dum-bum, B, C, D, G. I put the C in parentheses because I wasn't sure I wanted it, but I am pretty sure I want it. So I think I'm going to get rid of those parentheses. So let's do this slowly at tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come and behold him, born the King of angels. Oh, come let us adore him. Oh, come let us adore him. I gotta go down an octave. Oh, come let us adore him, Christ the Lord. It's too early, or not. I don't know if it's too early, but it's too whatever. I just didn't have that higher C in me today. So, I went through and played those chords. I did a couple things as I did so that are worthy of mention. One was Did you hear me do that little walk down here? That's another one of these things that I might not pick up the first time, but I will pick up the second time. So let's see what I did. Oh, come let us adore. So I have a D7 followed by a G with a B in the bass. And my brain fills in for me a walking line there because I've done this sort of thing so many times. Not necessarily this song, but this is what's happening. This is 5 going to 1, 5, D7 going to 1, G over B. But that one chord is in first inversion, the third in the bass. Well, that's a super common thing to go from 5 to 1 in first inversion. Super common thing. It happens all the time in Bach chorales, happens all the time in any number of classical contexts, so you're going to see that in chord symbols pretty often too. And just as Bach often would, you will often see the bass line, I'm trying to get vibrato here, go down to G, go down to B like that. That motion is very common from that basically scale degree 5 to 4 to 3. It's all over the place in chorale harmonization. So why not apply that to the piano? So this is, I'm not trying to create an entire walking bass line, but basically when I see that thing, that dominant 7th chord, and then the next bass note is a third below it, I know that that walk down is going to work. Yes, a synth with polyphonic or with aftertouch would do that. So silly story, but it's fun anyhow. I was playing this gig once with this trumpet player Hugh Reagan, who I've talked about before, and yeah, there was a point where we were playing a piece, and I did exactly that. I went, and it was like I was soloing, so he wasn't playing at that moment, I think. And he just sort of looked over at me and goes, because he does this, on trumpet, you can do that. And you kind of shake the trumpet a little bit as a way of getting vibrato. It's a combination of that with embouchure stuff. But there is a little, way that the hand motion will introduce vibrato. Certainly on a violin, that's how you get vibrato. So anyhow, I went like that. And he looks over at me and goes, yeah, nice vibrato. So he saw that in the middle of the gig. Anyhow, that idea of doing that walk down is something I do a lot. I also use it as a way of hearing chords. Sometimes if I hear this C, I could walk down to that A. When I see two chords or hear two chords a third away from each other like that, I will very often use walks like that. Or if it's a walk up from G to B minor, say, then I'll go bum, ba-dum, and walk up to that. My ear starts to recognize opportunities to do that. And that's one of the clues that's going to help me even remember what that chord is there, because my brain hears that walk down to the chord or hears the walk up to that chord just as surely as I hear the melody of that song. And then, it must be that chord a third below or a chord a third above, because my brain is telling me that my left hand wants to walk. So these are all things you might want to pay attention to. So I did say that we're going to look at some of your harmonizations, and there haven't been as many posted as I might have needed to do much of this, but I do want to do this for a moment because there are some things posted here. So I know some stuff was posted as a separate threads, but some of them were posted within previous lessons, and so I wanted to give some feedback on one or two of the pieces that were posted, just to talk about this 1, 4, and 5 business and the use of them. And we looked at one of Dean's last time, but here I know Graham had one too, and a couple others. So this was one, and I do want to talk about this one because I posted about it a little bit. Let's talk about this away in a manger one, maybe, though, because I don't know this song. And I'm just going to play through this, and I want you all to do the same also. And can I actually... Oh, I can't zoom in on it. I can zoom in on it here, though. So we're going to do the same thing, key of G, right? And we're going to play the same exact way. and just if you can sing the melody, try to sing the melody if you're not on a keyboard, because I don't know this melody, right? This, if I'm not mistaken, this is the Australian melody, because there's the British melody, the Australian melody, and the American melody, and this is, I think, the Australian one, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. Away in, and then the question was, is this next chord supposed to be A minor or not? But I'm going to go with it. A major. Walking up to the no for a red. Too high for me. And now I'm gonna, okay, so here's one of these situations where I'm on A minor here. If I want to then play my D7, I've been playing it down here, but maybe because my pinky is already on the A, maybe I will play the D7, this one. The little Lord. Here's our G chord again. Jesus laid down his sweet head, and this time I will play it that way. So, and then it's essentially the same phrase again. As far as the choice of chords, I want to hear from some people who know this song, because again, I don't know this version. So let me tell you, so you call this the British version, because here's the one I think of as the British version. Away in a manger, no crib for a bed, the little Lord Jesus laid down his sweet head. This is a melody that's also flow gently, sweet Afton, right? Which is, I think, Welsh or British, some form of island type song. The American melody is away in a manger, no crib for a bed, the little Lord Jesus laid down his sweet head. That's the other melody. So, but yeah, these are three different melodies that are commonly done. So that's curious that at least in Scotland, that's not what's commonly done. It's commonly sung somewhere, though. I just heard it in a sing-along over last weekend, actually, here in America. The Flow Gently Sweet Afton version. So anyhow, my only question about this is exactly what Dean is saying, is that I had commented in the thing about this A minor maybe not being, like, my brain is telling me 1 and then going to 2 and then back to 1 feels a little off, and I wonder about 5, because 5 seems more logical there. Away in a manger seems more logical to me. A manger. And now, I'm perfectly fine with this 3 and the 6 there, but there's something about that feels not likely to be the original chords there. And I can't say exactly why, except maybe having a 7th in the melody feels not in character. A 7th prominently in the melody feels a little out of character with how this type of song is normally done. So I want to research this a little more, but that's like one of the flags going off for me. Manger, manger, no crib for a bed. I would have imagined it to be maybe a G with a B in the bass, going at C there. I don't know. This is my gut telling me this without knowing the song at all. But so these things should be working together. Your act, because some of you know this melody and I don't. So having the brain tell you what to expect is useful, but then knowing how it actually is commonly done is useful, and then you kind of take those things and put them in a blender and get the right answer. So I'll be curious to see other people's thoughts about this in particular, because it's a song that I don't know, and I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on these chords. All right, that's what we have time for today. So by all means, check out my whole lesson that I did for the Musicianship Skills Workshop. Come on, play. Hey, there we go. Check out the lessons that I did for the Musicianship Skills Workshop, where I talk more about playing the chords, talk more about choosing chords, and just get some music up there. And yeah, ones, fours, and fives, and we'll talk more next week about dressing it up a little bit more. So, yeah, I hope you're finding this process useful. It's not about right answers, it's about process and figuring things out. So I'm trying to show you a little bit about my process to give you a picture of how this music actually kind of works or can work. So next week will be, the last week before Christmas week. So we'll kind of wrap up talking about this kind of stuff, and then maybe the following week during Christmas week do some sort of like little concert kind of a thing. We'll see how that works. So let's get some music up there. Let's get some lead sheets up there and comment on each other's stuff. So even if you don't get your own lead sheet up because you've got too much else going on, maybe use the time you do have to comment on other people's things so we can come up with good versions of things. So look forward to talking to everyone next time and seeing your stuff in the community. See you later.